keep buying this one, you find that your money will never be enough for you, because today you go there, the price has changed. Tomorrow you go there, the price has changed, especially with rice. If you live in Nigeria, you understand what I'm talking about. So at the beginning of the year, I decided to buy half bag of rice. Since I'm still alone, I'm eating it alone, it will be enough for me to last for a long while. And I made sure that when I went home for Christmas, I took a good portion of rice from my father's house. So even when I'm earning, I'm still my daddy's girl, so I have to take all the things I can take. Hi besties, how are you guys doing? So let's answer this question. Are you one of those people whose salary is meant for repaying debts? From paycheck to paycheck, you find yourself in this constant cycle of always using your salary to repay debts. You've incurred them because your salary was not enough for you to take care of your monthly bills. But then what can you do? You still have to borrow again to take care of the rest of the month. So you find yourself in this rat race of always doing the same thing without any results. If that is you, we are going to be changing that in this video, because I'm going to be sharing with you how I've been able to manage my life up until this point after working for 6 years without having to borrow money, because I don't want to be caught on fresh. Even though in this tough economy we're all managing and all that, but learning how to manage yourself up until the point that you don't have to borrow or have any reason to borrow, your girl has got it covered. So if you're new here, my name is Peace, and I'm a banker with 6 years experience working in the finance industry, precisely in an organization that regulates the finance industry here in Nigeria. And from living in a country with a struggling economy, I've learned so much about money, coupled with my experience from working in the banking sector. So I have the experience, and I'll be sharing with you all I've learned along my journey. So let's just get right to it. So to avoid borrowing, there are two main things I do immediately my salary draws, because I don't want to be caught on fresh. And the very first one is budgeting, aka splitting my money into places that I know that will not put me in this cycle of having to borrow. Yes, I know you must have heard about budgeting, or you're even tired of hearing of the word budgeting. But my dear, budgeting is going nowhere, because if you want to survive in this planet and in this economy of these days, you have to learn how to budget. At least have an idea of how it works and how it can help you to manage your salary. And when I talk about budgeting, I'm not really talking about like the big accounting book, debit, credit and all that. I'm just talking about having my notes app, which I use, my Samsung Notes app, to document all I spend my money on. To tell you how serious it is, from 2021 up until this point, I've recorded every single thing I've spent my salary on. That is because I don't want to find any situation whereby my salary is not enough, so I'm now having to borrow, to the extent that when I'm even budgeting, I have like a column for miscellaneous. That is how serious it is. But even though I'm not going to be showing you that in detail, because obviously it's just that you have to get the idea that budgeting is the only way out of being in a rat race, or that is the very first thing I do. So one thing I make sure to do even when I'm budgeting is to make sure that I have a column for groceries, I have a column for personal, which is the money I'll be spending on myself, because I don't want a situation whereby I will say, okay, I'm budgeting, then like I've taken care of everything, then your girl does not have money for ice cream, does not have money for all those pop-ups, does not have. I even add miscellaneous. Miscellaneous is very important, because there are some places you might just find that you need money, but then it's not in your personal, it's not in your budget. There miscellaneous comes in, and especially when at the end of the month you don't have any use for the miscellaneous, it now turns out to become your own personal money as well. That is the joy that I can never give up on. So I make sure to have this budget that is very detailed. Every single thing I want to get, I make sure it is on there. And another thing I make sure to do, like if there's any expenses coming up, like maybe parents, especially living in a country or in an environment where there's something called black tax, so you have to have this money that we take care of when needs arise. But one thing I do is I don't allow that need to arise unexpectedly. So if there's anything, maybe now my mother says, okay, I need money for this, my father says I need money for this, I make sure to tell you to wait, because I have to add it to my budget. Because I don't have any column or any place where I will say, okay, I'll just bring out the money from, unless maybe I get money from investments and all that. That is where I get small money that I might just say, okay, it's not part of my budget, and then I can just give you from there. That is after I've invested, because I still have to invest for my future. Even when I have this philosophy of I will enjoy my present while still planning for my future, I still make sure that everything is in check. So whenever I'm giving you any money, I make sure that I've taken care of my own needs, my own future, so that I don't feel like, I'm just spending money on you without having anything for myself. So if you have found yourself in a struggling situation, let's say you have already incurred debts over time, and you can't seem to take care of it, it will be better for you to, in every month, create a column for you to take care of the debts that you have incurred over time. Don't borrow again. Just stop there, like, for now, just stop there, so that we can take care of the ones you've taken from people already, while still having enough to, like, take care of your needs. Just make whoever you have borrowed this money from to, like, understand that, okay, I will pay you back every month, but that does not mean that I will give you everything, because I don't want to go back to the cycle of having to borrow from you again. So make sure that you have that taken care of. A column for borrowing, a column for family members, a column for, like, your day-to-day expenses. There are those recurring bills that you really have no choice, you have to take care of. And even when you have to save for your your house rent, and thank God Nigeria is like a country where you will pay rent yearly, unlike countries where they have to pay monthly. So you can plan that out. But even when we still pay yearly, we still have to plan it out monthly. So have a column for that. Have a column for, like, your day-to-day, or the things that that, okay, like, I live in a house whereby, okay, we have to pay for water, we have to pay for this, we have to pay for that. I have a budget for all of that. At least it is a recurring bill, so I know that, okay, every month I have to pay for this, so there must be a column for it. Then we'll now move on to, like, the groceries, which is the second thing and the most important thing as well, especially being in this time now where food has become like luxury all of a sudden. Before, we used to be able to afford, you can go to, like, any nearby kiosk and you get food for 500, but now even kiosks is like luxury, because it is now 1,500 and above. For my Americans, or for anybody who is watching outside Nigeria, I feel like everybody can relate to this current situation, that food has now become luxury all of a sudden. For some countries, they might not be feeling it as much, because like, it was just a slight bump, but Nigeria's own is almost like ×4, which is very annoying. So it makes me wonder, like, how are people outside, or who are not even earning anything tangible, able to survive? So it is a serious situation, and one that I'm not very happy about, but what can we do? We have to manage what we have. So next, I make sure to have, like, a grocery list. Before, I used to do this sporadic shopping, because it felt affordable. But now affordable was thrown out of the window, because even as a middle income earner, or a middle class in Nigeria, I don't even know if I'm still there now, because everything is now so expensive. For context, right, before now, I used to shop every, like, two weeks, so, like, almost twice or three times in a month. And this is always, like, coming up to 60,000, 70,000, 80,000, at best. But from last year, I found out that I could only shop once, like, so every 3 weeks I could only shop. So basically twice, or thereabouts in a month. But fast forward to 2024, now I can only shop once a month, and that is only when my salary comes, because like, things are now tougher. What your salary could get you before is not the same thing as what it can get you now, and especially with unchanging salary, your paycheck is the same thing, but you are still having to live in this economy of tough things. Everything is expensive, with dollar increase, fuel increase, everything increase. It has now kept us in this bubble whereby we keep having to take care of situations that we're not prepared for. So making sure that I have my grocery list, going shopping for it immediately the salary comes, because I don't want to have a situation whereby during the month I'm not lacking anything, and I make sure to buy these things in bulk, so that I know that it can take me throughout the month. Because when you keep buying this one, you find that your money will never be enough for you, because today you go there, the price has changed, tomorrow you go there, the price has changed. Especially with rice, if you live in Nigeria, you understand what I'm talking about. Last year we could buy rice for 20k, 30k. That was at the beginning of last year, but now the same rice is 80k. Just imagine that. So if you keep buying things every day, which is something I found, especially with rice, last year I was always buying, like, 1 cup of rice 1,000 every day, almost every 2 weeks, or every week. I was always finding myself back there. I thought to myself this year, if I continue this with this increase in things, like, I'll find that I can't even buy the rice again, or it will just seem expensive. So at the beginning of the year, I decided to buy half bag of rice. Since I'm still alone, I'm eating it alone, it will be enough for me to last for a long while. And I made sure that when I went home for Christmas, I took a good portion of rice from my father's house. So even when I'm earning, I'm still my daddy's girl, so I have to take all the things I can take before I now come and start living life alone again. So you find that these are situations that if you take care of them, you will not find yourself in this constant state of borrowing, because you've taken care of all the important things that you need to take care of. Then whatever is now left is now yours. So when I'm talking about whatever you have left is now yours, before then I've already put myself in the budget. So even when I'm taking care of every other thing, I know that okay, I have a salary within my budget as well. So it's not just whatever, like even though it's 10,000, that is mine. But sometimes you don't always have a choice, but you have to do what you have to do. But just having a very detailed budget that covers every aspect of your life is one way that you can take care of yourself without having to go into this constant state of borrowing. And especially having your grocery list inside your budget, or the total amount for your groceries inside your budget. And even when you're making this list for your groceries as well, make sure to have miscellaneous in there as well, because you might just find something that you want, ice cream that you did not budget for, you might just see it and want it. So having this detailed list can help you, save you from a whole lot of stress of falling into debts. Now let's say you've fallen into debts already, we need to solve it, right? Like I said earlier, you have to put it into your budget. It is advised that you use 36% of your salary to take care of your debts, nothing more than that. So for some people it might not be realistic, so work with what you can afford at this point in time. But make sure that every single aspect of your month or your daily needs have been included into your budget. Then have like an allocated percentage for your repaying your debt. Then you find that okay, whatever is now left, you now hold it for miscellaneous or pop-ups here and there. So doing this now, you find that every aspect of your life is taken care of while you are still able to repay your debts. And on this channel I've talked several times about investments, putting your money into places that will yield you more money. So over time, or let's say in the past 2 to 3 years now, I found out that my investments act as extra income for me. So I'm not always bothered about money, because I've invested over time, and I find that every month something extra always comes in. When you now have this extra source of income, it helps you to buffer for so many things, so you don't end up borrowing. At the initial phase it might be hard, because maybe you're having to squeeze with your salary and all that. But if you've taken care of like yourself, or if you've taken care of your investment from the beginning, using little money, over time you now find that every month something always just seems to come up. Like last 2 months now, I had my NTB pay me interest. Last month my investment in the cooperative in my company paid interest. So you find that every month something always comes up, and sometimes even the interest you get is more than enough to buffer for whatever you find that you can even spread it across to 2 months, 3 months, and then make sure to reinvest again a portion of whatever interest you've gotten back into the investment options you have in the first place. So these are the only ways you can come out of this constant cycle of always having to borrow or use your salary to repay debts. I don't really want to find myself in those place. After all, Nigerians say I don't want to be caught on fresh, and that's something I don't want for myself. So I always find that I'm able to balance out things. I don't know how it will be when I get married, but I really hope I will still apply the same knowledge I have or I've had from experience and all into my marriage as well. So these are some of the things that you can do for yourself if you find yourself in this constant rat race of always thinking that you have to use your salary to repay debts. So I want to ask, what is your controversial take on budgeting? Do you think budgeting is a very effective way to take you out of poverty, or help you to be financially free? Or do you think budgeting does not do anything? It's just one thing that financial gurus have made us to believe works? I would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. So if you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to click that like button, subscribe to the channel, and also check out this other video where I talked about how I make extra 2 million naira doing nothing while living in Nigeria. There are so many videos where I've talked about money and how to help yourself with investments and the effect of compound interest and all that. I would love for you to check it out. I'll put a playlist of all those videos here. So I'll see you guys in my next one. I hope this video has been helpful and it has given you an idea of what to do for yourself if you find yourself in this rat race of always thinking about money or having to be in debt. I'll see you guys. Bye bye.